Hey everyone, and welcome back. Our second guest is an accomplished public writer and media maker who is one of the leading voices on Caribbean and Latinx politics. She's a contributor to publications such as The Washington Post, The New Yorker, The Nation, and Jacobin. She recently became the director of CUNY'S Center for Puerto Rican Studies, El Centro, at Hunter College. Today she joins us to discuss the different ways she's shining light on the Puerto Rican diaspora. Please welcome Yarimar Bonilla. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Rhina. It's great to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you, and congratulations on making history and becoming the first Latina director of the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College.
Thank you. It's an honor to be the first directora.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Directora with an A. Love. Okay, so first let's introduce everyone to, I guess, your interests and I guess your new policies that are going to be implemented, right? With coming from this diaspora lens. In the past, the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, and while it is important for us to know our history, for some reason it's always seemed to be geared more towards island history versus like where we are in our modern day and age. So is there anything that is going to shift in your programming now that you're the director?
Well, I think this has always been a question at Centro, how to balance the need and the desire for folks in the diaspora to know about their heritage and know what they're from, with the need to know and understand our contemporary diaspora. And so it'll be, a balancing act, but we do hope to balance those. And part of what I keep saying is that I want Centro to be a bi-directional bridge where we can get information about what's happening in Puerto Rico. After Maria, since the debt crisis, there's been so much happening that we absolutely do need to keep an eye and be aware of. But I also want to send information back to Puerto Rico about what's happening in the diaspora, the growing diaspora, where now there's more Puerto Ricans outside of Puerto Rico than in Puerto Rico. And so we need to get a clear sense of what's happening across all these different parts of the Puerto Rican community.
And so what does that look like to you with regards to programming, right? So obviously Centro exists here in New York, so how are you communicating it to Puerto Rico?
Well, that's the only upside of the pandemic has been that we've created so much important virtual programming. And starting this semester, all our programming now features live interpretation in English and Spanish, as well as interpretation in Puerto Rican Sign Language, which is a good thing. In Zoom, it's very easy to just click and you can hear the language you want to hear. So that's like the technology we've been waiting for our whole lives. And so I think that will help. My idea for Centro is for it to really be a center, a hub, a meeting place. And unfortunately, we can't open our doors fully quite yet, but we can at least open those virtual doors and have those intra-diaspora conversations. And our events, we have been getting, people logging in from all across the United States and from Puerto Rico and from beyond, from Europe and other places, because our diaspora is global, right? And so that is the one good thing about these virtual events, is that people can come in, they can listen in the language that they want, practice the language that they want, and communicate in however they feel most comfortable. So that's part of what we're trying to do, is facilitate those dialogues.
That's lovely. And so with regards to that welcoming that you're referencing, how are you choosing your topics?
Well, I have a series of what I've described as urgent topics, but we've also been putting out feedback forms, getting people to tell us what do they want to hear about, and we are responding to those and trying to foreground those in our programming. And a lot of the topics that we want to cover, what we're trying to do is to think about issues, for example, like race and gender justice and displacement, how they're impacting Puerto Ricans across both the island and the diaspora. So rather than having these, island-focused conversations or diaspora-focused conversations, it's thematic conversations that impact our Puerto Rican community no matter where we are, and that I think reflects better how we live and think, because we live and think in movement, right, and in connection. And so that's one of the goals, at least for this this semester.
That's lovely, and I'm really absorbing everything that you're saying, because I see where your intentions lie in making sure that it's not necessarily generalized, but generalized enough that it's relatable on both sides, right? Even though you're discussing a specific topic, but
Yeah.
in the manner in which it's being discussed, so
Well,
that
and we want to bridge these communities and for people to share experiences. So, you know, the folks in Puerto Rico who are feeling displaced after Maria, where there's like a big land grab happening, they need to be in conversation with the folks in the diaspora who have been displaced from Brooklyn, from other, you know, communities. And so we have strategies and experiences that we need to share with each other. And similarly, when thinking about issues of racial discrimination or gender violence, like there are certain aspects that we are working on collectively, no matter where we are, and that we should be thinking about together.
right. And so is this what you're implementing into the afternoon gatherings that you've
So
scheduled? I
yeah,
got
so we have a new,
newsletter.
yeah, we have a new series of events. So I'll go through them kind of like through time of day. First is our library lunch hours. Those are happening every 2 weeks, and that is featuring our archivists. And there's been a lot of interest in that because they will be, you know, opening up the vault and showing, you know, all the different materials that they have, and also talking to folks who want to be collectors or be donors of their papers. And so that's happening every Tuesdays, you know, every other Tuesday at noon. And then we have these cafecitos, which are at 3. Most of our events gravitate around food or beverages. So
Like our culture.
right. So the cafecitos, we will be featuring scholars talking about their research and their research findings, but in a kind of informal setting, answering questions. We have one coming up that is about racial shifts in the census. So let's all talk about, you know, what's going on there. And they're supposed to be, you know, informal conversations with the community in Centro, right? And then we have these afternoon tertulias, which are more dialogue, interview format with a scholar or, you know, a high profile person. Because that is in the feedback forms, that's what we heard that people wanted. They don't want a lecture, they want a conversation, they want to join a community of, you know, of interest. And so that's what we're trying to provide. And then soon we hope we will be having some in-person events soon, but for right now we are, you know, leaning on the side of caution and focusing on our virtual events.
That's wonderful. Okay, so just for clarity purposes, what you're saying is that people can participate in these afternoon gatherings, and in their participation, they actually will have a voice in the matter. It isn't them just sitting there watching a workshop or having somebody facilitate and provide like some kind of PowerPoint presentation or anything. This is actually like a discussion.
Yeah,
Virtual.
I mean, there's room for the introverts. There's a place for everyone in Centro. So those who want to just listen in, I know many of us like to listen to things while we're cooking or cleaning the house or whatever. You can absolutely do that. But if you have a question, if you want to participate, they are interactive events, absolutely.
And the motivation is really to unite us as a
Yeah, we had a big symposium that went on all day, and we're also integrating a live DJ into some of our events. We hope to keep that when we go in person. And so if we don't have a live DJ, we at least have a playlist. And so part of it's a hub. It's come chat, you know, engage in the chat on Zoom, listen to music, share your ideas. And so there's a formal Q&A box to put in your questions to the panelists. But there's also a space for just chatting if you want to like reflect on what you're saying, share resources. What we really want to promote at Centro is not just knowledge and learning, but community. And so we're trying to foster that virtual community.
Wonderful. And thank you for bringing it to us here on Open, to our Bronx viewers, everyone. La directora. Yarimar Bonilla for the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College. And once again, you guys, for more on Yarimar Bonilla and her upcoming conversations with the Puerto Rican creatives and, of course, the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, you can go to centropr.org. www.cuny.edu. I hope you had your pen. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about, we're going to hear from an author that is celebrating the Latinx community through her children's books. Don't go anywhere.